Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are both trying to convince a jury in Fairfax County, Virginia, that they have been defamed. Johnny claims Amber lied when she accused him of abusing her. Amber claims Johnny lied when he called her a liar. Both Johnny and Amber have testified in court, each presenting much different accounts of the violence in their relationship.
She picked up a can of mineral spirits about yay big and just heaved it at me.
He was squeezing my neck against the railway car for what felt like a very long time.
Now the jury is hearing from other people who lived in the downtown LA penthouse lofts with Johnny and Amber, including Amber's sister.
When he was drinking, he would just get very angry, and he would just say really nasty, unkind things.
And Amber's former best friend.
She had these deep cuts on the backs of her forearms.
This hour, we are live in Fairfax, Virginia, with all the big moments from today as Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And the case continues down in Fairfax County, Virginia. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. This is a case of, and usually I say a trial is a search for the truth. In this one, I really think the trial is more so a search for the liars, because both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are accusing each other of lying. That's what the case is all about. But who is the real liar? Is Amber lying about Johnny abusing her? Is Amber lying about Johnny lying about her? I mean, it gets real confusing if you really dive deep into it. The bottom line, though, when we look at this relationship and what we've learned by listening to the testimony, seeing the evidence, is that there absolutely was violence in this relationship. We've seen the proof, right? We've seen the proof. We've heard the testimony back and forth about violence and arguments, and it was not a great relationship. It really wasn't. The way it's really been described is kind of like this roller coaster that goes really high and then comes crashing down really fast. But still, the jury's got to figure this all out, right? They've got to figure out what is the truth in all of this. You know, because Johnny says, I never hit Amber. I've never hit any woman. And Amber says, well, I never hit Johnny, and he beat me up all the time. For years. For years. Not only beat her up, she claims that she's been sexually assaulted more than once by Johnny Depp. So, way different stories here. So, during Johnny Depp's case, we heard from some independent witnesses, right? Because if you're trying to figure out who's telling the truth, Johnny or Amber, you got to listen to what is everybody else saying. Well, Johnny called to the stand, his best friend, his bodyguard, Johnny's boys, and from their testimony, which came first, you listen to their testimony, and then you're like, okay, well, it's sort of, you know, consistent with Johnny's testimony, and then Amber testified. She was one of the first witnesses in her own case, and you're like, well, we're listening, Amber, but nobody else is saying what you're saying. It's, you know, we heard from Johnny, then we heard from people who were in that house, people that were in your circle, and none of them, including police officers, no one is seeing this violence, this unbelievable violence that you are describing you were a victim of. Well, today was a different day. Today was what I call friends and family of Amber Heard coming into court, and these are people who live there as well. Like Johnny's friend Ike lived in those penthouses in LA, but so did Amber's friends and family. They all kind of moved in, and take what you want from that. They all absolutely agree. Johnny Depp, extremely generous person, extremely generous, but they all lived there, so they got to see things. And one of the most important witnesses, who's kind of in the middle of all this, is little sister. And I say little sis because It's Amber's actual younger sister, and Johnny used to refer to her as Little Sis. So this is someone who was very close, obviously, to her sister, and at one point very close to Johnny Depp as well. And she testified today. And the jury got a much different look at what was happening from her than they did from the witnesses called by Johnny Depp. Take a listen.
Please continue.
They're saying horrible things to one another. You know, he's calling her a used up trash bag, you know, whatever. They were saying horrible things to one another. She was calling him old and fat. It was a fight. They were saying really nasty things to one another. I leave them in the kitchen to go up the stairs. I was trying to calm Amber down, hopefully get her back into my apartment. And Debbie had come up with me.
And Debbie, who's Debbie?
Debbie was his nurse at the time.
Debbie Lloyd?
Yes, I believe that was her name.
Okay.
So we're with Amber on the mezzanine level.
I'm sorry, just so we know who where is it you and Debbie that are with Amber, or is it?
Yes, Debbie, Amber, and I are all in the little mezzanine area. And as I mentioned, the mezzanine overlooks the kitchen and the living room. So Johnny then hurls a Red Bull can and it hits Debbie in the back. She didn't even react. She didn't really seem to notice. But I'm standing up there talking, or I'm at the top of the stairs with my back to the stairs. And that's when Johnny runs up the stairs. And again, I'm facing Amber. He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my sister." She smacks him, lands one. And then he grabs, at that point, that's when Travis runs up the stairs after Amber landed one. But by that time, Johnny had already grabbed Amber by the hair with one hand and was whacking her repeatedly in the face with the other as I was standing there. Travis pulls them apart. I get Amber into mine. I close the doors behind me and lock them. I then hear Johnny's voice shouting.
Never mind, withdraw. Okay, sorry.
I hear Johnny's voice shouting, I hate you. I hate you both. You. And I hear crashing. I hear crashing and banging and smashing, and he starts screaming like an animal. And I then just moved Amber into the next room, and I just kept her there all night. The next day, I go, and I see her closet has been completely destroyed.
That is a violence. Not only is she saying that Johnny Depp hit her sister, that she got hit by Johnny Depp. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us live outside the courthouse in Fairfax, Virginia, in the courtroom for all of this. Chanley, what about the cross-examination of Amber's sister, Whitney?
Well, it was nothing too fiery, but some points were scored for Depp's team on cross-examination, trying to elicit the fact that it's her sister and there may be some sort of bias there possibly to want to testify favorably for her sister in that moment. And, you know, she talks about the fact that she witnessed Amber hitting Johnny Depp, and that was good, of course, for Johnny Depp's team, but also the fact that Johnny Depp hit her first. And so this was the only instance, though, in the years that she was, quote unquote, their marriage counselor, that she witnessed physical violence between the couple. She did testify to seeing some injuries and whatnot on Amber's face in other instances. But let's take a listen to a little bit of that cross, Vinnie.
Ms. Enriquez, you claim to have seen signs of injuries on your sister during the course of her relationship with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes.
But you never witnessed any incidents that resulted in visible injuries to your sister, right?
Other than the staircase incident? I witnessed that incident. What are you asking me exactly?
You never witnessed any incidents that resulted in signs of injury that you were concerned about over the course of their relationship?
Other than the staircase incident, I did witness that.
No, at no other time when you...
No, that was the only time that I saw him.
Inside the courtroom, this was the only live witness today, Vinnie, so that perked up the jury. They paid attention. They were glued into her version of the story. They were shown photos of the aftermath that we've already shown our Court TV viewers of Depp allegedly destroying Amber Heard's closet after this event. And also, we have to keep in mind that when this happened, Whitney Heard's story is that Depp, grabbed her with one hand and hit Amber Heard with another hand, and he had a cast at this time on his right hand because his middle finger was severed during the weeks previous in Australia, and that's been a point that Depp's team has brought up, the fact that could he really grab and beat someone with both hands with a cast on type of thing. And so that was also, again, before this jury, and overall, probably the strongest witness of the day because it was in person.
But that's fascinating because that's when he's got the severed finger with the cast, and this is interesting. So let me ask you, has anyone else, so we've heard Amber, Johnny, and now Whitney, anyone else that was there see things the way that Amber and Whitney saw things on that staircase?
No, we've heard from McGivern, Travis McGivern, the bodyguard, that was a witness, and Debbie Lloyd, the nurse, has also been before this jury, and her deposition played, and they both gave different accounts. It seemed as though they weren't there in the moments leading up to it. Debbie Lloyd didn't talk about personally seeing the fight. I believe she was more of the aftermath. She denied being hit with the Red Bull can. And then Travis McGivern memorably testified that actually he helped break up the fight, not really Whitney's sister, and that he testified that he was actually between the couple when Amber punched Johnny. So a lot of conflicting stories here. Who knows what the jury will make of it?
More chaos. Now, and just to remind us, this fight was started or happened after she accused him of cheating, right? That's the whole basis of this, is that she's angry at him because she finds he's sleeping and finds an old text message to an ex.
That's right. Finds some photos and text messages from, we'll call her an ex, but they were apparently still hooking up even after he was married to Amber Heard. She found out that the day after they were married, he was over at this other woman's house who he'd been in a sexual relationship for a while, according to Amber Heard's testimony. And that drew her into a rage, as you can imagine, and according to testimony, she didn't care what happened to her. She was going to confront her husband. She had to, is what her testimony was. Okay, so I'm just wondering why Johnny's going after her if she's the one that's mad, but that's an argument that we may hear. Okay, Amber Heard's makeup artist testified today. What did she have to say? Yeah, this was a strong witness for Amber Heard, another video deposition before the jury, someone who worked with Amber Heard for many years as her makeup artist, and she specifically talked about the aftermath of the December 2015 incident between Amber and Johnny. She didn't witness that incident, but she testified that she had to help cover up some injuries, those two black eyes and that busted lip that allegedly Amber Heard sustained with that fight between her and Johnny. Let's take a listen to how she told the jury she covered up those injuries.
Ms. Iglesias, could you please describe what you did by way of makeup to prepare Amber Heard for the James Corden show on December 16, 2015?
Yes, we covered, I just did makeup, but just a little heavier with knitted. So we covered, the discoloration or the bruises with a little slightly heavier concealer, one that has a little more of a peach undertone, which I would normally don't use on Amber, but peach do cancel blue. So I did that under the eyes, and although Amber always, has a red lip, is one of the signature look, I remember clearly talking that we had no other option that night but then to use a red blood, like a really red lipstick to, make sure we could cover up the injuries on the lip.
And were you able to cover all of the injuries with the makeup that you applied and as you just described?
Yes.
And then here's some video. We've shown our viewers this before. The jury has seen this video of Amber's appearance on the Late Late Show with James Corden, where she has that dark red lipstick on Vinnie, and according to the makeup artist, some darker, heavier concealer to cover the two black eyes, where, again, Amber Heard alleges that Johnny Depp headbutted her during an intense argument and then pounded, away at her, and it broke the bed. He was beating her so badly just the night before this appearance on television.
Powerful, powerful testimony. A lot for this jury to think about. Chanley Painter in Fairfax County. We're going to talk to you in just a little bit. Let's bring in a special guest in Alexandria, Virginia. New York Times bestselling author of the book You Can't Lie to Me, retired ATF investigator, world-renowned body language expert, Janine Driver, who was inside the courtroom today. I saw you in your pink shawl. We all spotted you here at Court TV. So let's talk about Whitney, if we can, and the story about what happened on the staircase. What did you think of that testimony? What did you think of her demeanor, the way she told it?
I think it's a disconnect, Vinny, and I wouldn't be surprised if you picked up on this, because we've talked a lot about these illustrators. That illustrator helps us tell the story. We relive the story with this. I broke my clavicle bone when I was in college. I'm never going to point to my left side of my clavicle. I'm going to point to my right. That's the one that broke. Doing a trust fall, a guy fell, lost his balance, and karate chopped my clavicle. Why do I tell you this story? Because when we see Amber's sister on the stand, Whitney, she talks first about Amber punching Johnny, and she shows Amber's right hand punching Johnny, and then seconds later she goes, Amber punched Johnny, and shows the left hand. So we have a disconnect. Well, which is it? And then it leads me to believe, well, wait a minute, was Johnny the one that was doing the punching? I don't know. It's a disconnect with her story here. And there are moments like right here that you're showing that it seemed like she was almost holding her breath. And we see this a lot in law enforcement when someone's holding something back. We literally tell them to breathe. When someone's forgetting to breathe and they hold their breath, because we saw a lot of stiffness here, especially in the left shoulder while telling this story, and along with other parts of testimony. This is like they don't want you to see their nervous breathing. So they literally will stop. They'll hold their breath, and this is often a sign that someone's holding something back.
Okay, Janine Driver, never holding back here at Court TV. Janine's going to be with us this hour. When we come back, we're going to take a look at more testimony from today from Amber Heard's sister, Whitney. One part where she's talking about Johnny Depp and his drug use. We'll break it down. Don't go anywhere.
Or
Well, they were incredibly in love. I actually, to this day, have never seen my sister fall so madly for somebody. And things were wonderful. They seemed to really understand each other and get along well. But very quickly, this pattern emerged as their relationship went on, that if Johnny was using, there almost always was a fight. There was always a
Objection, Your Honor.
That is Amber Heard's sister, Whitney, testifying today. Important witness, obviously a big part of Amber's life, but also a big part of Johnny's life. And she was there for much of this because she is living in the penthouse in Johnny's penthouse suite, kind of in that building downtown in Los Angeles. But important testimony today about Johnny's drug usage. And remember what Amber Heard's theme is from her team is that Johnny, great guy. Johnny on drugs, really bad guy. Violent guy, wife beater guy. So let's take a listen to what Whitney had to say about Johnny Depp and drugs.
What, if any, behavior changes did you observe when Mr. Depp had been drinking alcohol or using drugs?
Like I said, it was, a completely different version. He was almost unrecognizable when he was drinking and using to an excess. If it was alcohol and Coke, he would slur. He would go on these paranoid, delusional rants about things that didn't make any sense. His speech would be slurred. I almost never knew him to use cocaine without drinking. Those were generally combined. When he would smoke weed, he was much more relaxed. He was kind of what you would expect, happy on a couch, laughing. But when he was drinking, he would just get very angry, and he would just say really nasty, unkind things. And it almost didn't, usually about Amber, sometimes about me, but it almost didn't matter if she was in the room or not. He would just say really horrible, horrible, horrible things about her or to her.
Can you give the jury a few examples that you can recall?
Pardon my language. He called her a used up trash bag, slimy, saggy, was thrown out a bunch, just horrible things like that.
How many times did you observe Mr. Depp drunk?
Countless. Too many times for me to quantify.
How many times did you observe Mr. Depp high on drugs?
Again, it would be really hard to put a number to that. It was a lot.
Okay. And what types of drugs did Mr. Depp use, to your knowledge and your observation?
Well, I've done cocaine and drank with him on a number of occasions, so that. He almost always had weed of some sort, marijuana, joints or whatever. I have seen him take MDMA on an occasion, shrooms as well. I once saw him consume a Ziploc bag that had a bunch of just unknown pills, some prescription, some not. He just took them all at once to see what would happen, and he laughed about it. Those are what I can recall.
Okay. Now, you said that you also did cocaine with Mr. Depp, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so this is a big issue in the case. Let's bring in our guests. Still with us, body language expert Janine Driver. Joining us now in Austin, Texas, trial attorney Holly Davis, and in Los Angeles, California, psychology professor and America's relationship expert, Dr. Wendy Walsh is with us. Great to see everyone. Holly, let me ask you this, because in the beginning of that, what we just played, Amber's sister talked about she had never seen her sister that much in love. And then we've heard, it's like this relationship that goes way up and then way down. In your days, you represent people in family law matters, right? Have you seen, is this unusual that someone is like the the most intense love of my life, and then, but we got to break up because it's the worst love of my life. Do you know what I mean? These highs and lows.
I do. Exactly right. We call it high conflict. That's a high conflict relationship. High conflict people get into high conflict relationships and have high conflict divorces. That doesn't change. Their personalities don't change over time. They just experience a litigation event. And that's what we're witnessing firsthand. I think it's the height of irony for all of these witnesses, including Amber Heard's sister, to be talking about Johnny's drug use when they themselves are using drugs with Johnny. And what do we know about Johnny Depp? What does everybody in America know about that guy? He does drugs. Everybody knows it. He's admitted it. And so that's not a question. He also has admitted that he destroys things, hotel rooms, bottles of wine, things around him, mirrors, countertops. That's not in dispute either. What we're here to decide, what the jury's here to decide, is what caused Amber Heard's injuries. And in a high conflict relationship with a high conflict person that I think Amber Heard absolutely is and is not owning up to, which is a problem for her case, I think that we really have to ask ourselves, do we believe a high conflict person who claims that they're just a victim and was never a perpetrator of domestic violence when there are so many other witnesses from the staircase scene saying that they saw quite the opposite, that it was Amber Heard who was the person perpetuating that abuse in that moment.
Dr. Wendy Walsh, how do you see this relationship, and two relationships, the relationship of Johnny Depp and drugs and the relationship of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard when Johnny is using drugs and alcohol?
Well, I actually think his relationship to drugs is very similar to her relationship to him. These are high dopamine reward centers of the brain that become very addictive. And when two people get into a trauma bond, it is very much like an addict needing a fix. The same reward centers of the brain are taking place. And I want to remind you, we don't have to prove that she started it. We don't have to prove that she hit him. All we have to prove in a defamation suit is that she survived even one small incident of violence from him. And somebody who admits they're an addict, admits that they have blackout times, will be enough to tell the jury that, well, you know, maybe he does things that he doesn't remember. But we've definitely set up a pattern of anger and aggression. And the research is pretty clear. People who destroy things also reach out to people to destroy them.
Janine, as I was watching the last piece of testimony, we saw Johnny Depp's reaction. And Whitney was testifying about him swallowing a whole bag of pills. He didn't know what they were. And then he laughed about it. And then he laughed in court as well. What should we take from that, if anything?
It's almost a contemptuous laugh. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Maybe it did happen. You know what I think is the most interesting part here, Vinny, is we see Whitney take these big breaths here. I told you a second ago, it's almost like she's holding her breath in some parts of her testimony. Here she goes right into the deep breath. Oh, this is something I could talk about with ease. Right, this is something that is true. I can say it. It's easy. It's like I'm relaxing now. I take that deep breath, and we see her take a couple of them. Even look at her posture. Her posture begins to get slumped into there instead of this like stiff thing, the stiff, rigid posture. Here, it's like, oh yeah, everybody already knows this. I can talk here very easily. It's like she's happy to be on this part of the testimony.
And let me ask you, Holly, and Wendy brings up a great point, Dr. Wendy Walsh, about what the trial ultimately is about. We've heard Amber Heard tell stories of extreme violence, right? Extreme cases. How do you think a jury receives those stories if they think that, well, maybe something little happened? Will a jury say, okay, well, I think she's exaggerating, but I'm still going to accept part of her testimony? Or do you think they're going to say, she's exaggerating, well, I don't trust her at all?
I think your intro answers this question perfectly, Vinny. It's all about who's the liar. It's not necessarily about who's telling the truth. And in this situation, I think Amber Heard's team did what every single legal team would do, which is to put their client up on the stand first. But I think it was a mistake, because whether or not she's a victim of domestic violence, that's the ultimate question. But she's also an exaggerator. From my time as a trial attorney and also representing victims of domestic violence, I think it's very important for them to not exaggerate and to be consistent in every single way. If she lied about, unfortunately, if she lied about even a detail, big or small, that she could be caught in, or if she exaggerates and becomes really melodramatic to enhance a point that is true, that's going to trip up this jury. And so I don't think this is as black and white, and you're not saying this either, that Amber Heard represents all victims of domestic violence. I mean, you cannot believe Amber Heard and still be very much a proponent of victims of domestic violence. I think this is about credibility. So to answer your question full circle, I think the jury, while technically the defamation lawsuit is about whether or not anything could have happened to Amber Heard at the hands of Johnny Depp, I think they're going to ask themselves, who do I believe more? That's not the legal standard, but that's what I think juries do. And I don't think Amber Heard is believable. And I don't think that her sister is as believable as all the other witnesses that were friends and family of Johnny Depp telling the exact same stories from the exact same incidents.
Well, we're going to take two of those friends and take a look at both their testimony. Amber's friend versus Johnny's friend. When we come back, our guests staying with us, our experts, we need them. Trust me, we need them. Remember Johnny's friend Ike? Well, he testified. We'll remind you of what he said. And then today, Amber Heard's former best friend also testified. Much different stories from the friends. That's next.
I'm not angry at anybody. I want the best for her to take her responsibility, heal, and move on.
I was sad for her, and I was also sad for Johnny. Because he is my friend, too. And I really wanted them to be able to get it together.
Ike and Rocky. Ike, really good friends with Johnny Depp for years, and Rocky, Raquel Pennington, Amber's former best friend, for whatever reason, which still isn't clear yet, they've grown apart, they're not friends anymore. But both testified, one by deposition, Rocky by deposition, back earlier this year, and Ike live during Johnny's case. Let's take a listen now to what Ike had to say, because I really want to compare the testimony of the friends, because while they're both kind of saddened by the situation, they saw things much differently.
I think you testified already. You're pretty angry with Ms. Heard, right?
When?
I wrote it down that you.
About all the phony pictures that were taken and put in tabloids, and about the fake narrative, and about and the way she's trying to got a fraudulent DV claim to extort and blackmail a man. Yeah, that kind of got me
pretty angry,
frustrated, confused, angry, upset. Yes, which is why I said the best thing for us to do is not to talk to each other.
Okay.
Yes.
And was it fair to say you're still angry with her?
Oh, you know something? It's 6 years.
But we just heard you give your version.
Am I angry anymore? I'm not, what I am is tired, and I want this all to end. Her to go heal, him to go heal. So many people have been affected by this malicious lie that she started and she created, and it's gone out the door and around the world. And so I can't even paint anymore. I've stopped painting for the last who knows how many years, and that's affected by stuff. I'm not angry at anybody. I want the best for her to take her responsibility, heal, and move on. And for Johnny, his family has been completely wrecked by all of this stuff, and it's not fair. It's not right what she did and what happened for so many people to get affected from this. It's insane.
And Mr. Baruch?
That's how this happened.
Never forget that testimony. Now, let's take a listen to today's testimony, which was played for the jury, from Amber's former best friend.
In the beginning, I wasn't worried. Towards the end, when the physical abuse was more evident, I was worried. I was worried for her physical safety. I was worried that when he turned, he might accidentally do something that was worse than he ever intended. It's a photo of Amber's face with 2 black eyes and a swollen bottom lip.
Let's bring back in our guests. Janine Driver, Holly Davis, Dr. Wendy Walsh. Dr. Wendy Walsh, your thoughts about the 2 friends, and these are very close friends, at least they were at that time.
Well, of course, the friends are going to support their friends. They're corroborating the side of their friend. And what we have here is a couple where both people provoked, instigated, attacked each other verbally and likely physically. And so the friend is going to want to only talk about their side of this, right? And again, I just want to remind you over and over, when there's so much anti-Amber out there on the internet. And while, as our good lawyer said, she doesn't represent a typical victim of domestic violence, certainly she does not. But you know what she does represent, in my opinion? You know, sometimes the trauma is so terrible and they haven't worked through it. There's almost a distance when they're describing it, almost a gap. So when she's sitting there describing this stuff and you're like, she's not emotional. And then her lawyers are likely coaching her to say, amp it up, like look a little sad about this. Then the crying comes off as fake. But all this can be a trauma response, right? Here she's trying to show people that she's upset. But the truth is, the trauma response is that she's numb. She's separated from it.
Janine Driver, your thought about the two friends, Ike and Rocky?
I think there's no comparison. And I think that in my experience with 18 years training law enforcement, judges, we see authentic sadness in both. The issue is Ike, because he's on the stand, he's live, he's building this rapport with the jury, with the judge, with the courtroom. He's incredibly likable and funny and charming. We like him. And so by the time he gets emotional, it's this slow roll into the emotions. It makes us emotional because it's like we're watching our friend suffering. But with Rocky, she's not our friend yet. She didn't build that relationship with us yet. The crying kind of came. I was in the courtroom when this happened, so she was talking, and then boom, a clip came out of nowhere with her crying. And I was like, whoa, it was almost like a car stopped in front of you on the highway so fast. I was like, whoa. It didn't give us time to go into that sadness with her. We do see sadness here, but think about it. Is it because of the things that she's saying? Or is it because the friendship's over? She's now divorced. She's not with her husband. There could be layers of things that are bringing on this authentic sadness that we are seeing. One of the things, last thing I want to say about Rocky, is she does this very interesting thing, is she's putting her tongue inside of her cheek several times throughout her testimony, like this. And when people do this, this is the tongue in the cheek move. It is hiding something and relieving tension. So any of the times you see people do this, what is it they're hiding? Why are they relieving this tension in this way instead of just talking to us? I don't think the jury and I don't think the courtroom connected with her as much as they did with Ike.
All right, Holly Davis, I literally have 15 seconds. Your analysis of the two friends, only 15 seconds.
You know why they're no longer friends, Amber and Rocky? Because Amber punched Rocky over Thanksgiving dishware, and Rocky admitted it. So if we've got a person with an anger problem, we've got a friend that admitted she was abused by Amber Heard.
All right, Janine Driver, Holly Davis, Dr. Wendy Walsh, great to have your perspective, your insight, all your experience. Thank you so much. When we come back, we're going to go back out live to Chanley Painter outside the courthouse. Let us know what the jury did not see today. That's next.
I'm here to support the real captain, the really real captain. I'm here to support him. We're also here to promote a cryptocurrency called Johnny Depp INU, and a portion of the proceeds goes to help raise awareness and help the prevention of male victims of domestic violence. And the charity that we'll be donating it to is in the UK.
Okay.
Because there isn't one in America, and that's a tragedy, isn't it?
What do you think of the trial?
I haven't seen any of it.
Really?
No, not at all.
So why do you support Depp Sparrow?
Oh, you can tell that he's innocent. You can tell that he's a victim, and so I strongly support that.
Never know who you're going to bump into at the courthouse. Let's bring back in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who joins us from outside the courthouse tonight. What was the scene? A great interview with Captain Jack, by the way. What was the scene like this morning at the courthouse?
Yeah, Vinny, you never know what you're going to run into out here. In fact, Stephen, who was Captain Jack, he does that professionally. 17 years, goes to parties, children's parties, and he's here, of course, supporting Johnny Depp himself. But again, as I showed you last night, people still lining up outside this courthouse hoping to get into the courtroom. Not as many as when, Amber Heard was on the witness stand or Johnny Depp, but still a lot of new faces today. The first 100 in that line are inside the courtroom later that morning, and they stayed most of the day, kind of went out because they leave early, Vinny, so they can go and watch Johnny and Amber depart. They also arrive early to watch them arrive to court each day. I know we show you this most every night, but this morning something pretty special happened when Johnny Depp arrived. And I think we have the video, but he walks up, he grabbed a rose from one of his supporters, and then this happened. He tries to hand it to, I think, our photog, Austin Brady there. So we've been teasing Austin all day, Vinny, about that. But yeah, you know how he kind of looks up? There's balconies on the back of this courthouse, and employees and people who work here go out to the balcony to watch him show up.
Fascinating and growing. And you know when everyone else is going to, the crowd next week, when you get to closing arguments, wait till we see what happens then. Now, I understand during the departures today, or at some point, you ran into an Amber Heard fan or supporter.
There were actually a couple people with signs in support of Amber Heard, a young girl, and also the young man that we were able to speak to in the back. And again, crowds showing up. There's a look at what it's like, extra security and barricades now to make sure people don't enter the roadway for their safety, of course. But there's a young man, he talks about why he wanted to show up to support Amber Heard. Let's watch.
I'm here in support of Amber Heard. I believe right now in the courts and on Twitter, there's an unfair bias against Amber Heard. People are bullying Amber Heard on Twitter. I think it's deplorable. That kind of behavior shouldn't really happen. I would like to see a fair verdict. It's not my job to decide how the court is going to be run. I think it's more important that the jury gets the right decision with true facts that come out of this case. So if we see a verdict that goes one way or the other, I just hope that it was a fair decision and all the facts were laid on the table.
And of course, Vinny, we're seeing as Amber Heard's case rolls on a little bit more, like I said, someone finally with the sign for Amber Heard. Maybe that indicates some sort of change as her testimony and others who corroborate her testimony are taking the stand. I do have to mention, though, today inside the courtroom, the jury seemed tired, though, Vinny, when they were watching video deposition after video deposition. They did perk up when a live witness took the stand, Whitney Enriquez, Amber's sister, but lots of yawns, rubbing their eyes, head in their hands. I've been watching them every day, and they were different today.
Yeah, live testimony, big difference inside the courtroom. You know, not as much of a difference on television. There still is, but in the courtroom, big difference. All of a sudden now, it seems like Johnny Depp's team, his team of attorneys that are representing him, are now kind of getting a little bit of cachet and their own level of support out there.
Absolutely. Well, we've been telling you when they arrive to the 5th floor, they're cheered by those in line outside the courtroom. Well, today, for the first time, a big group had them signs, clapping as they exited. There's Ben Chu, Johnny Depp's lead attorney, exiting the courthouse this evening to a crowd. We have some more video, I believe, too. There's Camille Vasquez. She's definitely a celebrity. People asking her questions, telling her great job on her cross-examination of Amber Heard, Vinnie. And so they're really kind of treated like rock stars here at the courthouse by all the Johnny Depp fans. And, of course, our favorite alpacas. We're back. Look, there's Teddy and Truffle.
Big day. Oh, there you go. Johnny Depp's team with, and it's very rare as an attorney. Like you don't get fans. You finish a deposition, you don't come out and people are cheering, but different experience for them. Chanley Painter, thanks so much. We got much more. Don't go away, folks.
ELE.com.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Today, Amber Heard's sister, Whitney, takes the stand for her sister and faces cross-examination.
You never witnessed any incidents that resulted in signs of injury that you were concerned about over the course of their relationship?
Other than the staircase incident, I did witness that.
Whitney was in the middle of one of the fights between Johnny and Amber on the staircase. Tonight, we take a look at her description of what happened and compare it to Johnny's and Amber's.
He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my sister." She smacks him, lands one.
I don't know how he managed to get his hand in my hair so fast, but he had his hand on the back of my head, my hair, and kind of was yanking me down.
When she was in between us, Amber snuck in she reached, got the roundhouse in and just nailed me on the cheekbone.
On the docket tonight in Broward County, Florida, the Parkland school shooter has already pleaded guilty to murdering 17 people. Now, a jury must determine his punishment, life or death.
He was in my class in 7th grade, and I knew he wasn't okay when he punched the window in and said, "I'm going to cause karma one day."
Plus, the entire basis of this trial is whether or not Amber Heard told the truth about Johnny Depp abusing her. So, tonight's 13th juror question: what was the most credible part of Amber's testimony? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you aboard. Another big day inside the courtroom. I mean, from this point to the end of the trial, every day is a big day. We've heard from Johnny Depp. We've heard from Amber Heard. But we've got to hear from everyone else as well, because Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's stories are so different, so opposed to one another. I mean, completely different view of what was happening in this relationship. Both claiming to be victims of abuse and both saying, "I didn't abuse the other." I mean, somebody's lying. We know it. One or both could be lying. So this jury, I think, has to look at other witnesses as well and what they have to say, what has the ring of truth, who comes across credibly. Whitney Enriquez, who was Amber's sister, testified today. Now, she's also been described, Johnny Depp would call her little sis as well. I mean, they were very close, as we've heard from this testimony in this case from lots of witnesses. Johnny Depp close with Amber's family, everybody was together a lot when they weren't shooting movies, but spent time together and had this general closeness. So Whitney's kind of in the middle of all of this. And her direct examination clearly on the side of her sister and was not good for Johnny Depp. So I want to start tonight by taking a look at her cross-examination. We know how important the cross-examination of Amber Heard was. Let's take a look at some of the cross-examination of Amber's sister, Whitney.
During the course of Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's relationship, you were frequently involved in their arguments, weren't you?
Yes.
In fact, you had a nickname, right?
Marriage counselor.
Yes. You often found yourself mediating disputes between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, right?
Clearly not very well, but yes.
And when you were in that role of marriage counselor, you empathized with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes, on occasion.
Because you had a pretty good understanding of what he was going through?
Depended on the situation. Sometimes I could totally see from his perspective. Other times I saw it from her perspective.
Well, you'd been there with Ms. Heard before, right?
We're sisters. Of course we've argued.
And you knew what it was like to want to run away for days and do your own thing and not have Ms. Heard there fighting with you, right?
I think that's kind of taken out of context a little bit. I think more metaphorically. But yes, I have been in arguments with my sister.
And you have wanted to run away for days, right?
Sure.
and not have her there fighting with you?
Sure.
Okay, now, Camille Vasquez took a much different tact in the way she cross-examined Amber Heard, but remember, Amber Heard is the other side, right? This is Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. This is someone who now is a witness, Amber Heard's sister, Amber Heard's witness, but not that same sort of attack mode, not that same intensity on cross-examination. Let's bring in our think tank, see what they seem to think about all that. Joining us tonight in Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani's with us. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series Trapped with Miss Arias, Kirk Nurmi, is with us. Great to have you both here. Nima, let me start with you. And this is Amber Heard's sister. This is someone, has obvious potential bias for her own sister, right? Any sibling would, unless they really didn't like each other. But what did you think, first of all, of the approach of this cross-examination? Would you want it more intense? Would you want it more confrontational? Or is that the wrong approach here because this isn't Amber Heard herself?
Well, yeah, you got to take a different approach with respect to the party, right? And Camille Vasquez was on fire yesterday. I mean, I have to give her a performance. And look, this is a sister. You have a clear bias. Although I thought Whitney was very credible, but just like Johnny Depp's sister was the first witness to testify in this case, we knew Whitney was going to come. And she gave a really, I don't want to say different account, but she wasn't Amber Heard because Amber Heard really refused to concede much, if at all. And Whitney did. It's very difficult to deal with a witness that says, hey, Heard threw a punch. Heard was difficult. She was giving ground. So I think if Vasquez came after her very aggressively, I think it would have been a bad look for the jurors because, again, I think she took a much more balanced approach than her sister did.
Now, Kirk, what she's testifying about here is that she was sort of the marriage counselor, right? So an acknowledgement that there's problems, but what I found, which was a good point, which came in on cross for Johnny Depp, but also helps her credibility, like Nima says, is she said, yeah, there were problems here, and she could see it from both sides, that it wasn't just one person abusing another. There were mutual problems in this marriage.
I agree, Vinny, and I agree with what Nima said about taking that different tactic, but I expected this witness to bring some highly emotionally charged testimony to the table, and she really didn't. There was that kind of even keel to it. She did concede some points, so she did gain some credibility there. But one of the other things I noticed, Vinny, is that some of the phraseology, now I can't point exactly to it, was very similar to what Miss Heard said. Some of the discussion was very similar, almost verbatim, right? So there were certain points where I think she looked coached, she looked overperformed, but getting in there and getting to some of the things quickly before that emotional component came out, before they were able to advance anything of that nature, was the right tactic to take in this regard, even though ultimately if we have a mutual combat situation, that could leave the jury with opportunity to rule in Miss Heard's favor.
Let's take a look at some more of the cross-examination, and this gets to, I think, another big part of this case, which is life growing up, right? Both Amber Heard and Johnny Depp seem to have some issues in their childhood that may explain the nature of their relationship as adults. Let's take a listen.
Your childhood, though, had some difficult moments, right?
It wasn't perfect.
Your father hit you and your sister at times, right?
Yes.
And your sister would protect you from that abuse when she could, wouldn't she?
We would protect each other, for sure.
All right, where are we going with this, Kirk? Rough childhood. I'm trying to put the pieces together on how a rough childhood and protecting your sister helps you in this case. Johnny Depp, how does that help Johnny Depp if the sisters had a rough time, they were both victims of abuse growing up, and then suddenly, they're each protecting one another? Are they trying to infer that she's going to lie on the stand to protect her sister in this lawsuit? Is that the analogy? Is that where they're going to go with this?
I think that's part of it, but I think, and I can't remember all of Dr. Curry's testimony, but we know that there's a history that people that experience domestic violence in their home growing up are more likely to become perpetrators of domestic violence. So I think that was part of the subtext of what Team Depp was getting to there. And we also contrast that, Vinnie, keep in mind what we heard before from Johnny Depp about trying to evade his mother, trying to avoid his abusive mother. We've heard tapes and testimony from Mr. Depp trying to get away from Miss Heard, and Miss Heard being one steeped in the conflict, right? So I think there's that subtle subtext there that basically they're both repeating the traumas of their childhood in this relationship, which makes a lot of sense. But also from Team Depp's perspective, it could be argued fairly that that means Amber Heard is the violent one and Johnny Depp is the one trying to get away.
Nima, you go online, to the 13th juror, right? You go on there, and a theme that keeps coming up over and over again, especially on a day like today, which was Friends and Family Day in the courtroom. You had all these people who are living in Johnny's penthouse lofts down there in L.A. You're in L.A. Is this? I mean, it seems like it was a nice building. It was a nice place to live. And if you got to live there for free, it was probably a pretty good deal, like a very valuable deal. Does that make these witnesses look bad? Like they get this free stuff from Johnny and now they're testifying for Amber? What does the jury do with that? Because the 13th juror hates that. It's just calling these people all freeloaders. And now that the free ride is over, they're lying for Amber.
Yeah, the freeloaders, right? I mean, there's a lot of social media comments about today, but it's not just Amber's witnesses, right? All of Johnny's witnesses were living there too, and they're all on his payroll. By all accounts, Johnny Depp was a very generous person, and this is something that even Amber testified to. Good Johnny was fantastic, took everyone on trips, was very kind. It's just when that drug and alcohol abuse violent rage came out, you have bad Johnny. And we even heard Amber testify. She loved and is still in love with good Johnny. It's just those bad moments. So this is consistent with the psychology of an abuse victim. We see those highs and lows, those manic depressive, one day it's physical violence. And I'm not saying that what's happened here. The next day it's roses and chocolate. So I think, these witnesses who are all kind of part of the entourage is just consistent with the life of an A-list celebrity here in Hollywood.
Kirk, how much is the jury going to, you think, pay attention to all the other people in the circle, right? That circle in LA that are living in penthouse 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, whichever one they're living in, from both sides. How much weight do those witnesses get versus the two parties, Johnny and Amber?
I don't think they get as much. And the real reason is because really, in reality, no one knows what goes on behind closed doors. We talk about no one personally seeing the physical abuse from Johnny to Amber, but that doesn't support Amber, obviously, but that's normal in a domestic violence situation. So I think all these people, no one knows what goes on behind the closed doors, no matter what penthouse they were in. They're just ancillary to that. So I think the jury is really going to attach to Johnny Depp or Amber Heard and base their decision really on whether they believe them or not. Certainly these other witnesses are cooperative. They help illustrate or support the story, but ultimately it depends on who they've attached to on that emotional basis, because we know emotion can play such a big part in a trial. And right now, whether it's social media or what have you, it's obviously clearly that emotion is in favor of Team Depp.
Now, let's listen to more of Whitney's testimony again, cross-examination, again, about this relationship. So it's her sister that's in this relationship with Johnny Depp. She's described it as very volatile and Amber getting victimized by Johnny. Take a listen.
You wanted Miss Heard to stay with Mr. Depp, even after you allegedly saw him hit her, right?
That's really oversimplifying something that's far from simple. Again, Amber was very much in love. So was Johnny. She's telling me that she wants something. Whether or not I agreed to it or not, whether or not I was okay with what was happening, it wasn't my place. If my sister said that she still wanted to be with Johnny and if I could help with that in any way, I was going to support her. I was going to be there for her to support that.
This is the ultimate, it's complicated relationship, isn't it, Nima?
It is. It's a very toxic relationship, and Whitney did a great job answering the question. And this is one of those things. Camille Vasquez, I said I gave her an A yesterday, but you don't ask the question where.
Well, this wasn't
you don't
Camille
know
today.
what the
It was a different attorney today, not Camille. I know we don't see her on the screen, but it was a different, a different member of the team today.
Got it. But you don't ask the question where you don't know what the answer is, right, Vinny? And you ask that question, the witness comes, she has a great answer for you. She's describing this toxic relationship. We all know someone or multiple people in these toxic relationships. So what she's describing is that middle ground that Heard's team really should be taking, talk about this mutual violence, mutual combat, whatever it is, because that's a path to victory for her. And this witness did a good job laying that out for the jury.
All right, Kirk, I want to ask you a question I've been asking everybody, because I'm trying to figure out the truth here, right? I always say that's what the goal of every trial, to figure out the truth. And I think overwhelmingly from people I've spoken to and reading the comments, everything else, there's this theme that's starting to build, which is that something happened, but it's not what Amber described. Okay, it's not what Amber described. It's something less than what she described. So what if the jury's feeling the same way, that we think something happened, but it's not what she said. She's exaggerating. She's describing things that just aren't plausible. But we you know, from all this testimony, the evidence we've seen, we feel like something happened here, physical, between Johnny and Amber did get hurt. Right? To some degree, not close to what she described. What does the jury do with that? Does the jury say, well, we're going to figure out what the truth is ourselves. It's not what she said, but it's going to be something less. And is that the road to victory for Amber Heard? Or do they take a look at it and say, no, she lied to us. She tried to sell us something that there was no corroboration for. If it was something less, that's what she should have told us, but she didn't.
Well, you know, Vinny, that's ultimately the $50 million question in this case, isn't it? Because the jury can do whatever they want under the letter of the law. If they believe there was only one instance of abuse, then that's enough to rule in Ms. Heard's favor and against Mr. Depp. But keep in mind, I want to follow up.
Even if the abuse is not what was described by the accuser herself.
Right, if they believe there's a certain amount of abuse based on ancillary witnesses or what have you. But let's keep in mind, what did Whitney say? Whitney said, I want to support my sister in this relationship. Well, if it was that bad, wouldn't you tell your sister to get the heck out of Dodge? She didn't. So it does lead to the idea that it was something certainly a lot lesser than what Amber described. We know that there was addiction. We know that there was all this kind of bad behavior on Mr. Depp's part during his drunken incidents. But do we know that there's violence? No. Could Amber be exaggerating? Yes. And the jury can take all that into consideration, and really whether they follow the letter of the law or not is up to them. They could simply say, we don't believe her. We think she's full of it, and we're going to award Mr. Depp the full $50 million. That's all it takes.
Wow. All right. When we come back, Amber's sister, Whitney, was in the middle of one of the incidents. And this is one where there are other people around and where there is physical violence. But who's hitting who? Who's the aggressor? Who's the victim? That's the question. So we're going to take a listen to some different versions of the same incident, of course, on the staircase.
298.
You never witnessed any incidents that resulted in visible injuries to your sister, right?
Other than the staircase incident? I witnessed that incident. What are you asking me exactly?
You never witnessed any incidents that resulted in signs of injury that you were concerned about over the course of their relationship?
Other than the staircase incident, I did witness that.
No, at no other time when you...
No, that was the only time that I saw him.
And you didn't see what caused any of the injuries you claim to have seen during the course of their relationship, right? Other than the staircase incident.
Yeah, staircase incident is the only one that I saw.
The staircase incident looming large inside the courtroom today. So that's Whitney, Amber's sister. She was there. She was literally in the middle of it all. So let's take a listen to what she testified to and see how it compares to what Johnny Depp testified to and what Amber Heard testified to.
Ms. Heard had her office at the top of the stairs. And so the stairs came down, and then there was a landing, and then another set of stairs went down the opposite direction. This took place on the landing, where she was coming out, trying to get to me, trying to hit me.
I was screaming at him because he threw this can at me and everything else that had happened. And when I did that, he bolted up the stairs. And, there's only, he was up the first flight of stairs. Again, I'm on the mezzanine, which is in between two flights of stairs. He bolted up the steps. And I don't know how he managed to get his hand in my hair so fast, but he had his hand on the back of my head, my hair, and kind of was yanking me down and hit me in the face with this cast he had.
At some point, then Amber is on the mezzanine level of PH 5. So she is, it's kind of hard to explain. So the kitchen's down here and the mezzanine's up here. So she's there, it's her little office nook, and she starts shouting at him.
And then Whitney, her sister, was there, who stepped in the way. And interesting thing that was interesting now is that Whitney stepped in front of Amber and was facing Amber to stop Amber.
I just remember this brief struggle we had before kind of break away Whitney, my sister, all of a sudden put herself in between Johnny and I. She just threw herself like in the line of fire or whatever. She just all of a sudden was there and was trying to get Johnny to stop.
They're saying horrible things to one another. He's calling her a used up trash bag, whatever. They were saying horrible things to one another. She was calling him old and fat. It was a fight. They were saying really nasty things to one another. I leave them in the kitchen to go up the stairs, was trying to calm Amber down, hopefully get her back into my apartment.
When she was in between us, Amber snuck in she got the roundhouse in and just nailed me on the cheekbone.
I just see my little sister with her back to the staircase, and Johnny swings at her, and I don't even wait for any other, I don't hesitate, I don't wait, I just in my head instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him. In all of my relationship to date with Johnny, I hadn't landed a blow. And I, for the first time, hit him. Like, actually hit him. square in the face.
I'm standing up there talking, I'm standing up there, I'm at the top of the stairs with my back to the stairs. And that's when Johnny runs up the stairs. And again, I'm facing Amber. He comes up behind me, strikes me in the back, kind of just somewhere over here. He strikes me in the back. I hear Amber shout, "Don't hit my sister." She smacks him, lands one. And then he grabs, at that point, that's when Travis runs up the stairs after Amber landed one. But by that time, Johnny had already grabbed Amber by the hair with one hand and was whacking her repeatedly in the face with the other as I was standing there. Travis pulls them apart. I get Amber into mine. I close the doors behind me and lock them. I hear Johnny's voice shouting, "You hate you. I hate you both. You." And I hear crashing. I hear crashing and banging and smashing, and he starts screaming like an animal. And I then just moved Amber into the next room, and I just kept her there all night.
So what really happened on the staircase? Let's figure it out. Still with us, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani and the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, the author of the book series Trapped with Ms. Arias, Kirk Nurmi. And joining us now in New York City, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona. All right, Bernarda, start with you. What happened on the staircase? What are we supposed to take away from all of this? And if, in fact, Johnny is grabbing Amber and hitting her with his cast, is it over?
Vinny, that's the $50 million question. That's the question right there. None of us knows what's happened. We got 3 different versions of what allegedly happened on that day. What is the jury going to be left with in order to determine what actually happened? And I don't think they're going to be able to do that. It's just so many different versions out there. Cross-examination, it went horrible, horrible for Amber Heard. I expected better, but it did not turn out better. So who knows what this jury what they have in front of them to be able to deliberate on at the end of the day.
All right. And Nima, what do you think about the different versions of this stair incident?
Yeah, 3 different versions. There's Johnny, Amber's, and Whitney's version. And frankly, I believe Whitney, because that's the middle ground, right? That gray area version. Because when you hear Amber Heard testify, both at deposition and at trial, she's protecting her sister, right? But we know this was about jealousy. She comes, she accuses him of cheating, right? They're saying terrible things to one another. This all comes out when Whitney testifies, right? So that's what I believe. They're hitting each other, and of course, Heard wins if that's the case. So I don't know why she's taking this extreme position. I don't know if it's for PR reasons. She cares about her reputation, what people think of her. She's a narcissist. She has to lie. She has to exaggerate. But I really believe Whitney's story today. This all started because of a jealous rage. And as a result, Heard hit Depp, and Depp struck back.
And this is interesting, Kirk, because I think Nima cut right to it. You know, why were they fighting on that night? They're fighting because Johnny fell asleep. Johnny was asleep, had his laptop or his iPad, whatever it was, had it open. She saw some text messages from an ex, and it looked like something was still going on between the two. So she's the one who is angry. So I'm wondering why Johnny Depp is running up the stairs if Amber is the one that was angry.
Well, you know, he's probably not. But we have 3 stories, but I've been watching this trial closely, and I think we can all agree Johnny Depp only has 2 arms. I haven't seen a third one. And one of them at this time, his hand was in a cast. So none of these stories make sense in the sense that, you know, Whitney, who did give a middle ground, says he's holding her. He's holding Amber and hitting her with the other hand. Well, if he's holding her by the hair and hitting her with the cast, that's going to cause some major damage, isn't it? That's a 911 call. That's at least worth a photograph from your sister instead of a picture of the closet. And none of this takes place, right? So none of the stories really make sense. The truth is probably none of the above. And you're right, Vinny, it doesn't make any sense why Johnny would be the aggressor under these circumstances.
Yeah, this one is a little confusing, a little bit of a head scratcher for me. You know, he's asleep. And my understanding is that the rage comes out when he's taking drugs and he's high. Bernarda, in this one, He's asleep. That's her testimony, that he is asleep when it all starts.
Exactly. That's been the common theme during the entire case that Amber Heard has been putting forward, is that he's a monster. He's a monster. He can't be controlled. He's so angry and violent. There's no way of stopping him. But when he's asleep, what are we talking about here? Does it make sense? You can't have it both ways. And I think that's exactly what's discrediting the case of Amber Heard.
Yeah, Nima, this of all the attacks that Amber Heard has described, this one is way different than the others. Way different in like the circumstances. Usually it's like like Bernard said, the monster comes out. Oh, he took 8 of those pills, or he was doing the cocaine, or I could smell the alcohol and the marijuana. He had terrible breath. Like he was sleeping.
Yeah, so just, if you're Amber Heard, why don't you just admit that you saw something, you got jealous, you hit him first. This has nothing to do with you thinking about Kate Moss, which is what you said when you testified, and he fought back because
Okay, wait, right there. Let me ask you, Dima, I want your analysis of this. You're the one who went to Harvard, not me. Harvard Law, youngest grad ever. If she strikes him first, and then he strikes back, does that make her the victim of abuse?
I think the answer is yes, Vinny. You can be the perpetrator and the victim. This isn't a criminal case.
In the same incident? But in the same incident. If this was like a case where we're trying someone for assault and I get hit and I punch back, you're not going to prosecute me for assault.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This isn't a criminal case where the burden's on the state. The burden's actually on Johnny by clear and convincing evidence to prove that
But
she
is
acted
fighting
with
back
malice.
abuse? Is fighting back abuse? Who thinks so?
I think she can be a perpetrator and a victim. Self-defense, it's not a criminal case. Civil defamation case. She can be the initiator, which she was. Yeah, and I don't think a man should ever strike a woman.
I didn't go to Harvard. I went to public law school, but I tell you, if somebody's a victim of domestic violence, I think we can all agree that they have the entitlement to fight back and defend themselves against the attack without being a perpetrator of domestic violence. At least under my definition, maybe this jury will have a different one, but that's kind of the way I see it. A domestic violence, somebody's being attacked, has the right to fight back, whether it's a criminal case or in this case, a civil case.
Big issue in this case. All right. Think tank staying with us. When we come back, got some more testimony to show you and also tell you now about another big, super high-profile case that is just around the corner here on Court TV.
times did you observe Mr. Depp drunk?
Countless. I mean, too many times for me to quantify.
How many times did you observe Mr. Depp high on drugs?
Again, it would be really hard to put a number to that. It was a lot.
And what types of drugs did Mr. Depp use to your knowledge and your observation?
Well, I've done cocaine and drank with him on a number of occasions, so that. He almost always had weed of some sort, marijuana, like, joints or whatever. I have seen him take MDMA on an occasion, shrooms as well. I once saw him consume a Ziploc bag that had a bunch of just unknown pills, some prescription, some not. He just took them all at once to see what would happen, and he laughed about it. Those are what I can recall.
Amber Heard's sister testifying today, and as you heard from her, talking about Johnny Depp and his drug use. Big part of this case. Is it the drug use that fuels the rage and the violence, or does he chill out and pass out when he does the drugs? That's going to be a question for the jury. While I have you here, I want you to show you a moment from a case, big case that we're tracking here at Court TV, the Parkland school shooting just around the corner. The defendant has already pleaded guilty. Take a look.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I will do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day. And it brings me nightmares, and I can't live with myself sometimes. But I try to push through because I know that's what you guys would want me to do. I hate drugs, and I believe this country would do better if everyone would stop smoking marijuana and doing all these drugs and causing racism and violence out in the streets. I'm sorry, and I can't even watch TV anymore. And I'm trying my best to maintain my composure, and I just want you to know I'm really sorry. And I hope you give me a chance to try to help others. If I believe it's your decision to decide where I go and whether I live or die. Not the jury's. I believe it's your decision. I'm sorry.
Absolutely bizarre moment from the Parkland school shooter, but the penalty phase, life or death for the Parkland school shooter, begins June 27th. They're still picking a jury, but June 27th, they start putting in the evidence. You're going to hear all the testimony, and that will continue to track it for you. When we come back, time to hear from you, our 13th juror, asking you about Amber Heard. Okay, her testimony's done. Her credibility, the key to this entire case. So I asked you tonight, what was the most credible part of her testimony? Very light response, I might add, from the 13th juror tonight on that question, but we'll have your verdict next.
The impact it has on me is every time I look at it, which is every day. I am set back. I have to relive it. I have to have the worst, most painful things I've ever gone through, painful memories I've ever had, the things I've narrowly survived at times, embarrassing, intimate details that I never wanted to be known, never wanted to be public ever, and to have them used every single day to call me a liar. I have to relive this every single day that I have to address those claims. Over and over again, the most intimate, embarrassing, deeply humiliating and personal things that I've survived are used against me every day. Over and over again. It's torture. I'm in so much pain emotionally. I just wanted him to leave me alone. I wanted to move on with my life. And he won't let me. By making statements like this, he won't let me.
umgc.edu.
I was begging Johnny to not make me prove what I've had to sit on the stand in front of all of you and prove and talk about. I was begging not to do this and have to sit where I'm sitting today. I didn't want this. I don't want to be here. I didn't want to be there then. And I was trying to point out something to somebody who I thought did not have a firm grasp on reality.
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled. Good.
Thank you.
I was trying to point out how absurd it would be for him to keep making me prove this by calling me a liar. I was trying to get him to not call me a liar because everything that I had said to date and everything I've said to date now is the truth. And I was begging him not to make me prove it, that there were photos, that there were witnesses, that there was my testimony. There were years of me with injuries on the dates where we were fighting, and they were documented. I mean, pictures from 2012. So I was trying to say to him, either you'd suppose that people would rather believe this is a hoax, elaborate, well-orchestrated, year-long campaign for what? Or that, what? It just seemed crazy. And I thought no one was advising him in his best interest. I thought no one was telling him the truth.
This case all about the credibility of Amber Heard because it's based on alleged lies made by her. And if she was telling the truth, she wins. I mean, it's over. It is over. So, because it's about her credibility, I posted this question on social media about what was the most credible part of Amber's testimony. And let me tell you, latest response I've had in any question during the course of this trial. I mean, like 1/6 as many responses as I usually get. But our 13th juror comment of the day, I don't know if Megan really answers the question, but here it is from Megan, comment of the day. I do believe that they argued, so I guess that's the part, and that jealousy was an issue in the relationship. But then Megan adds, but her inability to take accountability for anything makes me feel like she's leaving a lot of things out and being very deceptive. Kirk Nurmi, what do you think was the most credible part of her testimony?
I think the most credible part of her testimony was when she described Johnny's drug use. And there's only one reason for that, because he admitted to it. That's it. Everything else, there's a real lack of credibility as far as I'm concerned. Even that clip you just played, think about it. She's crying, she's getting all emotional, she's saying, I didn't want to do that while she's trying to cry. She didn't want to do this, she didn't want to do this. Then why do you publish the op-ed? Doesn't that about cut everything down that you just said on the stand, except for those things that are cooperated by Mr. Depp himself in relation to the drug and alcohol abuse?
Daniel tonight, he abused her many times in many ways. She painted a picture of the real Johnny Depp when the camera is off and no one is around. But I give him an A+ for deceiving many to believe he is something else. Bernarda Villalona, what do you think about Daniel's take on all this?
I can tell you, if Daniel was on the jury, who he will be ruling for, definitely Amber Heard. I guess he definitely dislikes Johnny Depp. In terms of, are there other jurors that believe what Daniel believes? We're going to have to wait and see about that. But in the end, the issue I have is that if you're able to lie about one aspect, it's hard for me to believe the rest of it. It just takes one lie. And with that, even the jury instructions is going to tell you that you can discredit the person's entire testimony.
And jurors do that. They do it very often. They don't like when a witness is not straight up with them. They really don't. Susan tonight, I believe the only truth to come out of her mouth is from the recordings, raw and extremely brutal. Even she can't hide from them. Reminder to all, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. No wonder she wanted a trial without TV. Naima Rahmani, a lot of people have talked about and have said, well, we already had this trial in the UK, but the public didn't have the trial in the UK. One guy wearing a wig made the decision, right? He's the one, I believe it was a he, is the one who saw and heard the evidence and made the decision. One man made the decision. A lot different here.
Well, yeah, now we have 7 strangers in Fairfax County who can't get out of jury duty. But no, in all seriousness, to answer the question, Heard was most credible when she actually admitted things, that she was violent, she used drugs, she was verbally abusive. She needed to go further. Like with respect to the charitable donations, just say, listen, I was broke. I needed to pay my lawyers. These people are all expensive. I promised I would pay this money to ACLU and Children's Hospital, but I couldn't. So I lied about it. I think that would have come across a lot more credible, and she would be viewed much more favorably by the public and on social media, Vinny.
Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi, Bernarda Villalona stepping in last minute. Awesome job. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you again really, really soon. All right, folks, don't forget, our coverage continues here on Court TV. Got to tune in. Ted Rollins, first thing in the morning. He's got it all for you. In the meantime, before we go tonight, I need your help. I have a picture of a missing child. Danny, just 13 years old. Danny Davis, missing since April 24th of this year out of Jonesboro, Arkansas. So if you see Danny, please pick up the phone, call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Jonesboro Police Department. Let's see if we can get Danny back to safety. That's it for tonight, folks. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Vinnie Politan. Have a great night, and as always, don't forget to hug the kids.